People often think that success comes from strategy, innovation, or vision, but underneath all of that lies something far more fundamental: safety. The sense that you can step forward, speak up, and take risks without fear of humiliation, punishment, or betrayal. Safety is not about being comfortable, it's about being secure enough to stretch yourself beyond comfort. When people feel safe, they don't hold back their ideas or their energy. They give more of themselves, not because they're told to, but because they want to. That's the quiet power of trust. It frees people to perform at their best. When fear is present, everything changes. The moment people begin to worry about being blamed, replaced, or ignored, their focus shifts from contribution to protection. They start working for survival instead of significance. They hide mistakes rather than fix them. They stay silent instead of speaking up, and they follow rules instead of pursuing what's right. Fear consumes creativity and replaces it with compliance. It suffocates growth because people can't grow when they're busy guarding themselves. Good leaders understand this dynamic. They know that their most important job is not to drive results, but to build an environment where results happen naturally. They protect their people so their people can focus on the mission. They remove the obstacles that create anxiety and confusion. They replace punishment with learning and control with trust. In their presence, people stop worrying about surviving the day and start thinking about how to make things better. That's when loyalty forms, not out of obligation, but out of gratitude. Safety doesn't mean the absence of challenge. It means the presence of support. A good leader doesn't shield their team from hard truths or high expectations. Instead, they help them face those realities with confidence. They say, "We'll get through this together." They make it clear that mistakes are part of progress and that accountability exists to make people stronger, not smaller. When people know their leader will stand by them, even when things go wrong, they push themselves further than they thought they could. This sense of safety creates what can be thought of as a circle of trust, a boundary that separates from the chaos outside. Inside that circle, everyone looks out for one another. They share knowledge freely. They give credit instead of hoarding it. They watch for signs of struggle and step in to help. The strength of any organization depends on how wide and strong that circle is. The wider it stretches, the more people it protects, and the more resilient the whole system becomes. Leaders who fail to create that circle often find themselves surrounded by silence. People stop bringing them bad news. Problems get hidden until they explode. The culture becomes one of blame and defense rather than honesty and growth. These leaders may still get results in the short term, but it comes at the cost of trust, morale, and long-term stability. Without safety, people disengage emotionally. They stop believing that their effort matters, and once that happens, no amount of motivation or management can fix it. Creating safety takes courage. It means taking responsibility for the well-being of others even when it's inconvenient. It means absorbing pressure from above so your team doesn't have to. It means standing up for your people when they make mistakes instead of pointing fingers to protect your own reputation. It's not easy to do, especially in environments driven by metrics and deadlines. But the best leaders understand that protecting their people is not a distraction from performance. It's the source of it. The power of safety extends beyond the workplace. It shapes families, friendships, and communities. Whenever we make someone feel valued and secure, we unlock their potential. Whenever we judge, criticize, or control, we shrink it. In every relationship, trust is the currency that sustains connection. And trust can only exist where people feel safe, when people know they can show up as themselves. Imperfect, uncertain learning. They begin to grow into the best versions of who they are. Leaders who create safety inspire a kind of loyalty that can't be bought or demanded. Their people follow them not out of fear of consequences, but out of belief in the cause. They stay late not because they have to, but because they want to help. They challenge ideas because they care, not because they want to win. That's what happens when people feel safe. They invest themselves fully because they know their effort will be seen and valued. Safety is not a perk. It is the invisible structure that holds everything together. It is the quiet force behind trust, teamwork, and purpose. It is what turns a group of individuals into a united force capable of achieving far more than any single person could alone. Without it, even the smartest strategy collapses. With it, even the hardest challenges become opportunities to grow stronger together. When fear enters an organization, it does not announce itself with noise or chaos. It creeps in quietly through cautious conversations, through people avoiding eye contact in meetings, through the silence that replaces ideas. Fear changes behavior long before it changes results. It makes talented people doubt themselves. It makes honest people hide the truth. And it makes creative people play small. Once fear takes root, the focus of every individual begins to shift. Instead of asking, "How can I contribute?" they start asking, "How can I protect myself?" When people are afraid, they no longer see opportunity. They see danger. They start analyzing every move, every word, every email for risk. They spend their energy managing impressions instead of solving problems. They stop taking initiative because the cost of a mistake feels higher than the reward of success. A culture of fear doesn't need to be declared for people to feel it. They sense it instinctively. They lower their voices. They hold back ideas, and over time, they disconnect from the very mission that once inspired them. Fear doesn't only affect performance, it corrodes relationships. It breeds suspicion between colleagues, forcing people to compete instead of collaborate. When individuals are afraid of being blamed or judged, they stop sharing what they know. Teams fragment into small groups that protect themselves instead of supporting the whole. Trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. Every act of self-preservation reinforces isolation. Every withheld truth makes the organization weaker. What once was a unified team becomes a collection of people working side by side, but no longer together. In an environment ruled by fear, mistakes are treated like evidence of incompetence rather than opportunities for growth. People become obsessed with avoiding blame instead of finding solutions. Innovation disappears because no one wants to take the risk of being wrong. The irony is that the very leaders who demand excellence through pressure end up creating mediocrity through fear. The pressure to never fail guarantees that people will never try anything new. Failure, when met with punishment, becomes the boundary line no one dares to cross, and that is where progress stops. Fear also destroys communication. People stop bringing up problems, hoping someone else will fix them. They nod in agreement during meetings and express doubt in private. Information gets filtered, messages become distorted, and important truths are buried under layers of politeness. The louder the fear, the quieter the truth. Leaders who rely on authority instead of trust often believe their teams are aligned, when in reality, their people are just afraid to speak. Silence in a fearful environment is not a sign of agreement, it is a sign of resignation. The impact of fear extends beyond the workplace into the human spirit. It diminishes confidence, drains energy, and replaces joy with anxiety. People who once cared deeply about their work begin to feel detached from it. They do what is required, but their hearts are no longer in it. Fear teaches them that effort is dangerous, that visibility invites criticism, and that vulnerability is weakness. The result is an organization filled with capable but cautious people, people who could do more, but won't because they've learned that safety lies in invisibility. When fear dominates, leadership becomes about control. Leaders spend their time monitoring, managing, and measuring instead of inspiring. They believe that oversight ensures success, but only deepens mistrust. Control is a short-term solution to a long-term problem. It creates compliance but kills commitment. People will follow instructions, but they will not follow the leader. They will do what is asked, but not more. The connection between leader and team becomes transactional, not emotional. And once that connection is lost, motivation fades. Fear is contagious. It spreads faster than trust and lingers longer than success. One harsh comment from a leader, one public humiliation, one unfair punishment can undo months of confidence building. People remember the moments that made them feel unsafe far longer than they remember the ones that made them feel valued. A fearful environment doesn't need constant policing to stay alive. It sustains itself through caution, gossip, and doubt. Every person who hesitates to speak reinforces the fear in someone else. Breaking the cycle of fear begins with awareness. Leaders must recognize the invisible cost it creates, the missed opportunities, the silenced ideas, the hidden potential. They must understand that performance driven by fear is fragile. It looks productive on the surface, but it is hollow underneath. True performance, the kind that endures, comes from belief, not pressure. It comes from people who trust that they can contribute without losing their dignity. Only then can courage replace compliance and engagement replace exhaustion. Fear destroys more than productivity. It destroys belonging. It tells people that they are alone, that their mistakes define them, and that vulnerability will be punished. When fear rules, the very essence of teamwork disappears. People stop building together and start protecting themselves. The saddest part is that no one chooses this. They adapt to it. They learn the rules of survival, and in doing so, they forget the freedom of creation. That is why eliminating fear is not just an act of good leadership, it is an act of humanity. Good leaders understand that their most important job is not to command, but to protect. They realize that the role of leadership is not about sitting at the top of an organization giving orders. It's about standing in the middle of it, shielding others from harm so that they can do their best work. Protection is not about defending people from consequences. It is about creating an environment where those consequences teach, not destroy. When leaders take responsibility for the safety and well-being of their teams, they earn something that no title can guarantee: trust. Leadership built on protection begins with empathy. It requires the ability to see beyond numbers, deadlines, and goals, and to truly understand the emotional reality of the people who follow you. A good leader notices when someone is struggling, not because productivity has dropped, but because they care about the person behind the work. They know that leadership isn't measured by how many people obey them, but by how many feel supported enough to thrive under them. Their success is tied directly to the success of those they lead. When leaders choose protection over power, something remarkable happens. People stop competing with each other and start collaborating for each other. In a protected environment, there is no need for office politics or self-preservation because the leader has already created safety. People share ideas freely, not worrying about who gets the credit. They take risks, knowing that even if things go wrong, their leader will stand beside them, not above them. The collective energy of the team shifts from self-defense to shared progress, and that is when real growth begins. A protective leader understands that accountability and compassion are not opposites, they are partners. Holding someone accountable without empathy creates fear, but holding them with empathy creates growth. When a mistake happens, instead of asking, "Who is at fault?" they ask, "What can we learn from this?" This approach transforms the culture from one of punishment to one of learning. It encourages people to take ownership because they know that their leader's intention is to help them improve, not embarrass them. The act of protection extends beyond words. It lives in small, consistent actions. It's in how a leader handles criticism from above, ensuring their team is not unfairly blamed. It's in how they communicate, giving clarity rather than confusion. It's in how they make decisions, choosing fairness over convenience. Each of these moments signals to the team, "You are safe with me." And over time, these signals accumulate into loyalty. People will work harder for someone who protects them than for someone who merely pays them. Protection also means taking responsibility when things go wrong. Great leaders step forward when there's failure and step back when there's success. They absorb pressure instead of transferring it. They recognize that leadership is not about being perfect. It's about being reliable. When leaders own mistakes publicly, it gives permission for others to do the same privately. It creates a ripple effect of honesty that strengthens the team rather than weakens it. People begin to understand that mistakes are part of progress, not the end of it. Good leaders protect by fostering connection. They create spaces where people can talk openly, ask questions, and admit uncertainty. They know that silence is not compliance, it's often fear. So they ask, they listen, and they respond with understanding. By doing so, they build a foundation of psychological safety where ideas and feedback can flow freely. When people feel seen and heard, they stop hiding and start contributing. They become more invested, not because they are told to care, but because they feel cared for. Protection also involves foresight. A leader must anticipate challenges and shield their team from unnecessary chaos. They filter information not to withhold the truth, but to keep people focused on what they can control. They understand that uncertainty breeds anxiety, so they provide direction, even when the path isn't clear. They remind their people that no matter how tough the situation becomes, they will face it together. This consistency turns uncertainty into trust, and trust into resilience. Leadership rooted in protection creates a culture where people feel they belong. In that culture, vulnerability is not weakness, it is strength. People admit what they don't know because they know they won't be judged for it. They ask for help without fear of appearing incapable. They celebrate each other's achievements because they understand that one person's success strengthens the whole team. Belonging replaces competition, and unity replaces division. In such environments, performance is no longer forced. It flows naturally from shared purpose. When leaders protect their people, they ignite something far greater than compliance or obedience. They build commitment. Their teams don't just follow, they believe. They believe in the mission, in each other, and in their leader. Protection at its core is the most human form of leadership. It says, I see you, I value you, and I've got your back. That belief allows people to give their full selves to their work without fear, without hesitation, and without holding anything back. Safety does not mean removing challenge, it means creating support. It is the understanding that people perform at their best not when life is easy, but when they know that someone will stand beside them through difficulty. A good leader does not shield the team from every obstacle. They teach them how to face those obstacles without fear of being abandoned. They build resilience, not dependence. Safety is not the absence of stress, but the assurance that stress will not break trust. It's the quiet confidence that no matter what happens, you won't be left to face it alone. When a leader provides support instead of shelter, people begin to grow. They learn to navigate complexity, to experiment, and to take ownership. They stop waiting for permission and start seeking progress. This is because support transforms pressure into purpose. When people feel backed by their leader, they see challenges as opportunities to prove what they're capable of rather than threats to their stability. That shift in perspective is what turns ordinary workers into problem solvers and problem solvers into innovators. Supportive leadership doesn't mean constant praise or comfort. It means presence. It's the kind of presence that says, I see your effort, I trust your judgment, and I'm here if you stumble. When people know their leader believes in them, they begin to believe in themselves. That belief becomes fuel. It allows them to take on tasks they once found intimidating. It gives them permission to fail, learn, and try again. A leader's support becomes the invisible hand that steadies others as they reach higher. A supportive environment also fosters honesty. When people feel safe, they stop pretending to be perfect. They start telling the truth about what they need, what they fear, and what they don't know. This kind of openness is what allows teams to function as a unit rather than as individuals competing for survival. It creates a rhythm of trust where information moves freely and help arrives before crisis. People begin to see vulnerability not as a weakness to hide, but as a bridge that connects. Support is most visible in moments of failure. The best leaders don't rush to assign blame, they ask questions that help others learn. They separate the person from the problem. They understand that people remember how they were treated when they failed far longer than when they succeeded. A leader who supports through failure teaches the team that mistakes are part of progress, not proof of inadequacy. It's in those moments that loyalty deepens because people never forget the ones who stood by them when things went wrong. True support is also about balance. It means giving people the freedom to act, but not leaving them to face uncertainty alone. It's a partnership between guidance and independence. Leaders who micromanage suffocate growth, while those who ignore their teams create confusion. The best leaders walk beside their people, not ahead of them barking orders or behind them pushing harder. They match support with trust, offering enough space for autonomy, but enough structure for direction. In an environment where support is consistent, performance becomes sustainable. People stop burning out because they no longer carry the emotional burden of fear. They can focus their energy on excellence instead of protection. Support builds endurance. It gives people the emotional capacity to handle setbacks without losing momentum. It allows teams to maintain high standards without constant anxiety. The more supported people feel, the more willingly they give their best, because they know that their effort matters and that someone sees it. Supportive leadership also redefines accountability. It shifts the focus from punishment to partnership. Instead of saying, you failed, supportive leaders say, let's fix this together. This subtle change in language changes everything. It replaces defensiveness with ownership. It turns criticism into collaboration. People stop hiding their weaknesses and start seeking improvement. They begin to view feedback not as an attack, but as an investment in their growth. Accountability, under supportive leadership, becomes a form of care rather than control. Support builds confidence not only in individuals, but in the team as a whole. When people know they can depend on each other, the group becomes stronger than the sum of its parts. Trust replaces hesitation. Communication flows freely. Everyone feels empowered to lead from where they stand. The leader's role evolves from directing traffic to nurturing connection. The team no longer needs constant supervision because the culture itself sustains the behavior. Support transforms leadership from a position into a relationship. The essence of support lies in consistency. People don't need grand gestures or motivational speeches as much as they need leaders who show up, leaders who listen, who understand, who keep their word. Support is built in small, everyday moments: a kind check-in, a fair decision, a calm response under pressure. Over time, these moments accumulate into security. That security becomes the soil in which trust grows, and from trust, everything else, effort, creativity, courage, begins to flourish. Leadership has never been about rank, status, or authority. It is about responsibility, the responsibility to care for the people you lead. A true leader understands that the title on their door does not make them a leader. Their actions do. Leadership begins the moment someone decides to take ownership of something beyond themselves. It begins when they choose to put the needs of others ahead of their own comfort. Some of the most powerful leaders are not those with corner offices or impressive titles, but the ones who lift others quietly, consistently, and without needing recognition. The misconception that leadership is confined to positions of power has caused many people to underestimate their own influence. Anyone can choose to lead, because leadership is an act of service, not privilege. It starts with a mindset, a decision to make the people around you feel valued, heard, and protected. You can be a leader as a teammate, a friend, a parent, or a colleague. What matters is not where you stand in the hierarchy, but how you make others feel when they stand beside you. Real leadership exists wherever people choose empathy over ego. Leadership rooted in humanity means seeing people, not as resources or tools to achieve a goal. It means recognizing that every individual you work with carries a story, emotions, and struggles beyond the workplace. A good leader doesn't ignore those human details. They honor them. They understand that trust cannot be commanded. It must be earned through consistency, compassion, and fairness. When people feel seen for who they are, not just for what they do, they begin to give their best without being asked. Leaders without titles often shape the culture more than those who formally run it. They are the ones who offer encouragement when morale is low, who mediate conflicts with kindness, and who speak up when something isn't right. Their leadership doesn't depend on recognition, it depends on conviction. They lead by example, showing others what integrity looks like when no one is watching. This kind of leadership is contagious. It inspires others to act with the same level of care and accountability. It proves that influence is earned through actions, not assigned by position. The heart of leadership lies in consistency. People watch how a leader behaves when times are tough, not just when things are going well. A leader who remains calm under pressure, who chooses honesty even when it's uncomfortable, builds trust through steadiness. Leadership isn't about perfection, it's about reliability. When people know they can count on you, even in uncertainty, they begin to follow you not because they have to, but because they want to. The stability you provide becomes their source of strength. True leaders also listen more than they speak. They understand that leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about creating a space where answers can emerge. Listening builds respect. It tells people their voice matters. It shows humility, which is one of the most powerful tools a leader can have. When leaders listen, they give others permission to contribute, to share their ideas, and to take ownership of the collective mission. That shared ownership turns a group of individuals into a team moving with one heartbeat. Leadership without empathy is just authority dressed up in control. Great leaders lead with understanding. They don't just manage performance. They nurture potential. They recognize when someone needs encouragement rather than criticism. They know when to challenge and when to comfort. Empathy is not softness, it is strength. It allows leaders to make decisions that are both firm and fair. It bridges the gap between intention and impact, ensuring that even tough choices are made with humanity. Leaders who lead from the heart understand that their actions create ripples. The way they treat people becomes the standard for how everyone else behaves. If they lead with fear, fear spreads. If they lead with trust, trust multiplies. Every word, every tone, every gesture carries weight. Leadership is not a performance, it is a daily practice. It is the discipline of showing up for others again and again, even when it's inconvenient. In time, that consistency builds a culture where people look out for one another naturally. To lead without a title also means having the courage to go first. It means setting the example others can follow even when it's unpopular or difficult. It's about taking initiative when no one else does, standing up for what's right when silence feels safer, and showing humility when pride would be easier. Courageous leadership inspires others to be brave too. It creates a chain reaction where doing the right thing becomes the norm, not the exception. Every act of courage, no matter how small, strengthens the moral fabric of the group. Leadership, in its purest form, is about stewardship. It is about leaving people better than you found them. It's about guiding others to see what they are capable of, often before they can see it themselves. The best leaders understand that their legacy is not built on power, but on people. Their success is measured not by how many follow them, but by how many they help rise. They see leadership not as a position to be held, but as a responsibility to be lived, one that anyone, anywhere, can choose to embrace. Every act of leadership begins with a choice to make the people around you feel seen, supported, and safe. Creating and expanding safety is not a single moment of inspiration. It is a continuous practice built from countless small gestures. It starts with awareness, with noticing when someone feels uncertain or excluded, and stepping in to reassure them that they belong. When a person feels safe, they no longer waste their energy on defense. They redirect that energy toward creativity, collaboration, and contribution. The smallest acts of reassurance can transform how people show up, and those acts begin to multiply when others see them modeled. Expanding safety begins in the way leaders communicate. The tone they use, the attention they give, the patience they show, all of it signals whether people can trust them. Words have power, and even the simplest ones can either open doors or build walls. When a leader chooses transparency over secrecy and clarity over confusion, they give people a sense of stability. When they speak with honesty, even when the truth is uncomfortable, they send a message that integrity matters more than appearances. People feel safe not because every situation is predictable, but because their leader is. The act of making others feel safe requires consistency. Safety cannot exist in moments, it must exist in patterns. If someone feels protected one day and abandoned the next, trust collapses. A true leader's reliability is measured not in big promises, but in the small, steady ways they show up. They keep their word, they follow through, and they admit when they fall short. In doing so, they remind people that safety is not about perfection. It's about presence. People feel secure when they know that their leader will not disappear when challenges appear. Expanding safety also means extending it beyond the immediate circle. It's easy to protect those who are closest to you, but leadership calls for a broader reach. It means noticing those who are quiet, the ones who often go unheard, and drawing them into the conversation. It means creating an environment where everyone, regardless of background or role, feels equally valued. Inclusion is one of the purest forms of safety because it removes the fear of being invisible. When everyone feels they belong, the organization becomes not just a place to work, but a place to grow. Leaders who create safety understand that empathy must extend both upward and downward. They advocate for their teams when pressure comes from above, and they communicate with honesty when delivering difficult news. They balance compassion with accountability, ensuring that care never becomes complacency. They know that safety is not about shielding people from reality, but about giving them the courage to face it together. The most powerful form of safety is the kind that empowers people to confront uncertainty without losing confidence in themselves or each other. Creating safety often requires courage. It means standing up against unfairness, challenging toxic behaviors, and setting standards for how people treat one another. It means refusing to tolerate gossip, discrimination, or disrespect, even when it's easier to stay silent. A leader who protects the culture protects everyone within it. By confronting what threatens the group's integrity, they demonstrate what safety truly means. Not comfort, but courage guided by compassion. Their strength becomes a signal to others that doing the right thing is not optional, it's expected. Expanding safety also happens through trust. Trust cannot be demanded, it must be earned through consistency and care. When people know that their leader's intentions are genuine, they begin to open up. They share ideas without fear of judgment and voice concerns without fear of retaliation. This openness strengthens the entire system. Problems are solved faster because they are addressed sooner. Innovation thrives because people are no longer holding back. The invisible weight of fear is replaced by the lightness of belonging, and in that lightness, progress accelerates. Safety multiplies when it's shared. When people experience psychological security, they naturally extend it to others. They listen more, they criticize less, they support rather than compete. A culture of safety becomes self-sustaining because the people within it take responsibility for maintaining it. Every team member becomes a guardian of trust, ensuring that no one feels isolated or unprotected. In such an environment, leadership is not centralized, it is distributed. Everyone, in their own way, contributes to keeping the circle of safety strong. Expanding safety requires patience. It is built slowly, often invisibly through repetition. It's in the leader who checks in after a hard day, who gives credit generously, who remembers personal details that make others feel valued. It's in the way feedback is delivered with respect, not ridicule. Over time, these small, consistent gestures accumulate into a collective sense of confidence. People stop bracing for impact and start focusing on improvement. They begin to move with freedom, not fear, and the energy of that freedom fuels growth for everyone involved. To expand safety is to expand potential. Every person who feels secure enough to take a risk contributes to the progress of the whole. Each voice that feels welcome adds a new perspective. Each act of empathy builds another layer of trust. The leader's role is to nurture that cycle, to create conditions where people feel strong enough to challenge ideas, brave enough to innovate, and connected enough to support one another. As safety grows, so does courage, and with courage, entire cultures transform from cautious to confident, from isolated to united, from surviving to thriving.